Ready.
You're on.
All right. Well, welcome to Unity of Springfield, adult education and new thought, Christianity, and world religions. And welcome to live stream. I got the mic on today. And sorry about last week. I started off, I didn't have it on right away. So my name is John Braucher, and I'm so blessed to be here to share the second part of the 5 levels of attachment by Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. So let's begin first with just a time of meditation and get a little bit relaxed, get comfortable, take any movements to stretch your neck or shoulders or torso. Then settle in with your true friend, your breath. I'd like you to ponder on the word / feeling love with no attachment to this three-dimensional physical world, no conditions, just pure love. Ineffable. As the words fall away, unconditional love. A sense of being beloved by source, God, nature. I'm going to play a brief yoga mantra, healing mantra. Ra meaning sun, Ma meaning God, earth, Sa air, Sa say total of infinity, so personal sense of emerging identity, and Hum represents the infinite vibrating. It's a healing mantra. Just going to play a few minutes. I want to express gratitude, nay, joyful appreciation to just a few teachers along my way that have allowed me to attract and be open to these teachings that I'll be sharing all today. And these teachings of unconditional love, blessing, and artistry sharing. Rachel, my hometown yoga teacher in Warsaw, she's the one that shared this yoga chant with. And, a great way to do savasana. And my family, past and present. Jeannie. And in no particular order, Mike D., Thomas Merton, Thich Nhat Hanh, Baba Ram Dass, Viktor Frankl, Wendy and Don, Sue and Paul, Marsha Linehan, who shared the concept of radical acceptance and non-judgmental stance. The Fillmores for the 5 Unity Principles, and Bill W. for I can't if I keep doing the same thing. I can if I consort with the source, and when I allow source to flow through. First 3 steps. Unitize. Sure. I can't if I keep doing the same thing. I can if I'm in concert with the source. The 3rd step is when I allow the source to flow through. So back to radical acceptance and non-judgmental stance. This is not in the handouts, but I felt like it's, and I've got the handouts. I'll hand them out here in just a minute. But I wanted to cover this because for me, it's just a whole lot easier. Sure. It's a whole lot easier to be open to this material and to start working on the skills that we're talking about if you've already grounded in the whole concept of radical acceptance and non-judgmental stance. So radical acceptance is fully accepting and embracing one's current reality without judgment or resistance. Okay? Fully accepting and embracing one's current reality without judgment or resistance. And what happens if you do resist or judge it? And then we experience some sort of suffering, some sort of contrast, if you will. And then non-judgmental stance is also a crucial precursor to using the skills. Now, to clear up some past and avoid future confusion that language presents when we talk about judgment, I'm going to present 2 distinct different types of judgment definitions for working purposes for what we're talking about. So there is a kind of discriminative judgment that is to discern or analyze information based on facts, comparing to see if they meet a standard. For example, a teacher grading papers or a swimmer deciding if a pool is deep enough to dive into. So, and that's not the kind of judgment we're talking about when we're talking about non-judgmental stance. The other type of judgment is called evaluative judgment. And that's the one we're talking about. These judgments label something or someone as good or bad, valuable or not, based on personal opinions and biases rather than facts. Now, also when you look at the discriminative judgment, there's also the issue of that it's based on facts. And sometimes we assume things are facts, that information is facts, when maybe it isn't. Maybe we don't have the whole story. We have information. We're bombarded with information. So how much of it's really factual? And that's for us to sift through and kind of work out. So what are some ways to practice non-judgmental stance? Back in the day, these are a couple that I worked on while I was learning dialectical behavior therapy. The first one was I took one day waking hours, and every time I noticed a judgmental thought, I'd make a mark on a page and do 1, 3, 4 / 1, 2, 3, 4 / and was rather surprised by the number of judgmental thoughts that crossed my mind throughout the day. The second one was, and you can do this in any kind of a safe group setting, where one person's identified as an observer, and they ring a bell or some sort of sound whenever they hear someone make a judgmental statement. And then everybody stops and figures out what that judgmental statement was. I found a YouTube deal by a Dr. KJ Foster, and she has some ideas for just everyday kind of increasing our awareness of judgments and to help with being non-judgmental. One is practicing being non-judgmental of politicians. Being non-judgmental of other people's appearances. Non-judgmental while driving. Sue, can we use that right? She tells us that. Being non-judgmental while watching or reading the news. And in any of these, we can use the bless them, change me self-state as we notice our judgmental statement kind of coming up, or a thought coming up in our mind. We can practice awareness of causes rather than assuming that the other person's behavior or the situation that we observe is based on our situation. Yes.
I love to look at this, like Course in Miracles does. It says, I have to give everything that shows up, I have given it, I'm the one that's given it all the meaning that it has for me. Because I don't think we'll ever not judge. We discern in every moment. But if I remember it's showing up this way and it acts this way for me and means this because I said so.
That's right. For me.
Yeah.
But not necessarily for
Right.
So does judgment not set inside of perception in itself?
Yes, and I don't mean that judgment is in any way a negative thing. It just has the potential to distort. And we just need to be aware of what's going on, what we're doing.
So that judging ourselves for judging it's a whole ball game of relativity, and what I've noticed is there's no end to catching and improving and not judging, because at every level that I have found myself, involved or, changed into, I see differently what I didn't see before, so it just feels like you don't see what you don't see until you're ready to see it, and it's endless, like the amount of it's like astounding to me how subtle as conscious as you can be, and you think, I've got this, you've got all this, you can read all the books, do all the exercises, and there just keeps being these subtle levels of.
Yeah, as soon as you have an aha experience, then there's something else. Practice spending time or chatting it up with the least favorite person at work or another situation. Non-judgment of others' past mistakes. Non-judgment of your own past mistakes. Refrain from gossiping and practicing loving kindness visualization. Some other skills that are helpful is practicing the mindful observation of your own thoughts. The more that we do that, it really makes the process of identifying and letting it slough off, letting judgment slough off, almost automatic.
I have a 3-word meditation. Every time I see it, I don't care.
Except when I do.
I still don't care.
No, you don't have to. Another one is challenging or investigating negative thoughts. So when we have a negative thought or emotion, rather than just reacting, we might go, what's going on here? What is their cause? What am I missing? And don't necessarily assume the first blush reaction that we have is factual. But it sometimes is a way of our body, our sensory part of us communicate with ourselves is through pain, sometimes emotional pain or physical pain, and then we go, well, okay, what's going on? What's happening? And then cultivating self-compassion and empathy. Okay, so now we're going to go to the handbook, which is pretty much, with just a few editorial things, right out of the 5 levels of attachment by Don Miguel Jr. And what I tried to do on both last week and this week is I tried to just record the meaty parts of the book. And I've left out some of his personal stories and examples and stuff, but I've tried to, like the conclusions and the pieces that spoke to me, I'm sharing with you all. So, to review from last week, we talked about concepts of domestication, what we grew up with. That freedom is being without suppressing yourself in the form of judgment. Self-acceptance, unconditional love, the personal dream, and the dream of the planet. So we have our own personal dream that we're bouncing around, and then we interact with our environment, which is the dream of the planet. The 5 levels of attachment: 1 is the authentic self, 2 is the preference level, 3 is identity, 4 is internalization, and 5 is fanaticism. And engagement is the action of interacting with our focal point of attention. So engagement is our tool of interacting with reality, as we know, it's 3-dimensional. So he starts off with the second half of the book with the story of the biggest demon. So Miguel Jr.'s father, Miguel Sr., says to him, he says, what do you think is the biggest demon that prevents people from happiness and joy? And he says, I don't know. And Miguel Senior says, it's love. So I want you to figure this out. He says, no, this can't be, because we are love, and all the the things that he'd been taught. And so what it is about misconceptions of love that we've learned through the domestication process. Romance novels, the movies, are watching our parents interact with each other, getting along with our siblings or not. There's a whole gamut of conditional love.
Giving to get.
Which is conditional. And of course, this is what Abraham Hicks would call one of the false assumptions that people make. So he goes on to say, we've always been loved. We have grown so accustomed to the smoky, distorted reflection of love that it doesn't allow us to see or accept ourselves, that we don't know how to live life without it, which is the biggest lie. When we become aware of our attachment and decide to let go of the distortion, then the motivation for change comes from our own life and gives us a whole new perspective on life. When we let go of our attachments to our narrators or our internal dialogue, specifically their judgments and criticisms, and accept ourselves as we are, conditional love will no longer be the motivator that compels us to change. So this is that radical acceptance too. When we accept that right now, in this current moment, that this current moment itself is perfect, regardless which moment that is. It's perfect just in itself because it is. You can not like it, but that's not going to make it not be. It just is. And it's perfect in the long story of things. In the big picture, each moment is perfect just as it is. So we might, let's accept. And once we absorb that and accept the perfection of that current moment, then we're free to choose. He goes on to say, in my experience, the only motivator that brings lasting love is self-love, or lasting change is self-love. When I love and accept myself, I want to treat myself well and be as healthy as I can be. Only then do I have the freedom to detoxify from whatever has been subjugating my will. There's a key phrase, I want to make this change for me. Regardless of whether you stumble along the way when you want to make a change, you keep getting up, exercising your will like a muscle in training. As your will strengthens, you will know what passion is. Passion is the expression of love, our authentic self, in the form of our intention. And engagement is that intention, that focal point of attention that creates intention, which is a very powerful part of being able to interact with the world around us, as well as within ourselves. So authentic love is the greatest motivator for letting go of our attention, while conditional love only strengthens our attachment. Knowing the difference is key. So when we experience love, the sense of being beloved, Where is it coming from?
From within.
It can be, yeah. Within, without, source, from, is source acting in others?
I think, how do you describe, how can you define love when we can't define God?
Yeah, it's ineffable. Yes, it is ineffable. It is. And yet we feel it. And it's a source, it is source to motivate us to be and then to act. So the best way to let go of illusions is choosing to accept the truth as it is presented to us, just as it is. And the truth will set you free. Now, and it's really up to us. So the next section here is moving through the attachments. Redirection is the skill of choosing to change the focal point of our attention. And this is the process we're talking about. Moving from level 5, which is fanaticism, to level 4 is love and respect for self and others. And that's the beginning of letting go of fanaticism. So we can't give what we don't have. And respect for life starts with our own. And love is the grounding source of this respect. Seeing that our life is worth something allows us to see that the life of another individual is just as special. To let go of the most extreme form of conditional love, which is fanaticism, requires an ability to question the agreements that are tied to it. And that can be very difficult because the consequence of this attachment to the knowledge at the level of fanaticism is that we impose self-judgment upon ourselves for even thinking that it might be another way. So when somebody is at that level of attachment of fanaticism, how can I even think that it's not this way? So I saw a comedian on Reels the other day, and she was talking about her previous upbringing in a type of Christianity where it was a huge sin to question the Word of God and to question what the preacher was saying was, that was a horrible, terrible thing to do. And but questioning is indeed the only way to really break that grip of attachment upon our will. Wendy?
So I've seen a lot of times where people get this message of loving themselves and a lot of times I just see that turn into another form of fanaticism. That it's like I have to do this and be this and eat this, and they become so consumed with self-care and doing the right thing. And the thing is that when I hear self-love isn't saying I need to love Wendy Fredrickson, but I need to know who I am. and who I really am. And that Wendy Frederickson is just an expression of that. And I can, through the expression of Wendy Frederickson, express the true nature of who I am, which is love and a creator and powerful and all of that. So the challenge in that loving yourself is not just loving the role you're playing here, but from yourself in the role you're playing here.
Right. Because at some point, the individual, the John Braucher self, kind of ceases to have much definition in the sense of Paul.
I think default for most people is condemnation of yourself. I think too often, just through conditioning, we tend to go right to the ego, right to, oh God, what did I do now? Or how, why am I thinking this, poorly? And I think consciously seeing that and letting go of that, to me, is then self-love. It's starting that process of self-acceptance.
And I find like self-love as being, it's like I start craving healthy things. It's like I say, wow, salad looks good. I think I'll steam some broccoli. And it's more of a like I find myself drawn to what is more healthy for me than being something that I have to arduously beat myself into doing. So he gives the example of on monkey bars that you have to, when you're going on monkey bars when you're a kid in the playground, you have to let go of the last one before you can grab the one in front. And it's that process. If we know a knowledge or a truth that I find is that the only constant is change. So it's not always gonna be the same. So I might as well try to look where I'm going and have as much choice as I can. But that means letting go of something to move forward and to embrace this next moment. And skepticism with the willingness to learn allows us to withhold our agreement until we have clearly heard and considered everything that pertains to belief. Skepticism makes it possible to reassess a belief and make a decision to hold on to it by saying yes or no. To recap the moving from 5 to 4, it requires an awareness of the knowledge we perceive, and then asking ourselves, do I really believe it? Why do I believe it? Does this belief serve me? And the mere act of exercising our choice allows us to once again become aware of our own will. The other piece is this whole idea of respect, self-respect, and respect of others. If I see something that's harming someone or harming myself, is that a motivator for me to move into change? And that can be a piece of that as well.
Yes. Well, I have, about a year ago, I got diagnosed with EOE. And I've been changing my eating habits. And it's been almost a year, and I'm still being able to eat most things without having to drink a whole lot of liquid. So on some of the things that I really like to eat, but on the other hand, I've been able to get my weight back up to 160 pounds. And for almost 2 years, 135 or 40 pounds is as high as I can get. So I've been constantly changing my eating habits to try to get healthy.
I'm glad you're experiencing some success with that. So next one is moving from the level 4 internalization to level 3 of identity. And that requires that we recognize our attachment to the mechanism of conditional love. Acceptance and rejection itself are narrators of distorted commentary. So acceptance and rejection is a part of this narrator, this internal dialogue that we, most of us experience from time to time. And according to Toltec tradition, the catalyst for the disruption or corruption of knowledge that allows us to internalize our identity. In other words, that acceptance and rejection and conditional love is that. So when we let go of that struggle between truth and lies, we cross over to level 3. In the Toltec tradition, when we recognize that the mechanism has a hold of us, we make a choice to not believe in it, thus beginning an internal war for our own personal freedom. And that's where, in the book, he then shares again the 5 agreements as useful tools. To be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, always do your best, and be skeptical, learn to listen. And often this learning to listen is also to ourselves. And being skeptical, not necessarily agreeing that the internal dialogue of the narrators are always factual. Because we know that 90% of our thoughts are habit thoughts. And only about 10% for most people are intentional thoughts. And so that's something we want to maybe change that ratio so that we're having more intentional thoughts. And observing the automatic thoughts to determine whether we want to just discard them, let them just be Teflon thoughts and let them just slide right off, as opposed to the ones we want to be Velcro thoughts, the ones we want to say, okay, yeah, I buy this. This is a truth that helps me be really more who I really am. So when we're in this, when we're moving to the identity 2, the moment we realize that we can love ourselves just the way we are, we can see that domestication is no longer needed, that our acceptance is no longer in the future. So he's kind of referring to the fact that a lot of what motivates us is we want to be, that person that we always dreamed of being. I want to be accepted by myself and others in some way, or one particular person, or whatever it is. But we're looking for acceptance when it's already here. It can be already here if we choose to have that radical acceptance experience. So the exercise, go ahead.
So,
You have to hold it to your mouth.
the place where that you just, I laugh at anything that's about this that you're sharing, that you're putting across, is once you get to certain place, words actually undoing it, you know, and so
Sure.
I wanted to just take a second to thank everybody that comes that's here and you for doing this, because the things that attract us to and help facilitate this that you just shared about, it's a transmission, so to speak. And so you might get that by going to nature, by going within, by going to another being who holds that degree of vibratory field. And in this place, there isn't a doing, there's a state of being that's almost like a grace. The fact that we even want to be that, almost, I wonder of ourselves if we're, you know, like that we even want to be good and better and be, you know, like the attraction to be, you know, it's almost like when you're hungry, you don't think about it or drive that, it just drives you kind of, you know, and the desire to live in love and to be our high, to get back in alignment with our highest energetic source or being is so much of a letting go than a doing thing that it's so hard to be verbalizing it. So I really respect and appreciate and I'm so grateful to you. What I have noticed, there's this being who said, it can't be taught, it can be caught. And I just, anyway, thank you.
So the exercise, okay.
This my own personal stuff, so I'm just saying, but I always wonder, like, go to classes where they say, accept yourself just like you are. And it always goes to a place of, so once you accept yourself, then you'll make changes to change. You'll do the right thing. You'll advance. You'll grow. It's like, wait a minute. If I accept myself, why am I going to make changes, advance, and grow? It seems like that's always the end point of anyone that talks about accepting yourself.
Yeah, you don't have to change. Because then it's free choice. So the exercise, there is an exercise that he offers. It's using the labyrinth in the Toltec tradition. And here it's a practice of forgiveness and letting go of domestication, as well as letting go of emotional wounds and poison by using the labyrinth. So the first steps, you have to be willing to enter the labyrinth, which is an action saying, yes, I'm ready to forgive and take responsibility for my own will. And as you enter, imagine with every turn and every steps that you take that there's a person, a moment, or a belief that you use. So we have these experiences with people or situations where we have beliefs, which is our own self-talk, repetitive self-talk. So a belief's just a thought that you think a lot. That, in some way, we're using that to domesticate ourselves, to keep ourselves stuck wherever we are. So as you enter, imagine what or whom you've used to subjugate your own will in order to be accepted by yourself or others. Hold that vision and say, whatever it is that you enters your memory of recalling situations where you felt like you weren't being your true self. Forgive me, I've used your words to go against myself. So an example of that would be like somebody really hurt your feelings, said something to you that really hurt your feelings. And their voice stuck in your head. So you continue to beat yourself up with those words that this person used. But it's your choice, it's your decision to hold on to those words that you're reusing to beat yourself up with. And so you say to this imagined person or situation. Forgive me, I've used your words to go against myself. Because you're the only one that can say yes to the belief and allow it to blossom in your mind. You say, forgive me, I have used your words and actions against myself, and I will no longer use them to hurt myself again. Forgive me, I have used your words and actions against myself, and I will no longer use them. They're just some examples of how you can respond to that. And then you continue walking the labyrinth as different things come to mind. Go ahead and address them and practice the forgiveness. It kind of reminds me of the ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian practice of forgiving people and forgiving yourself and asking for forgiveness as a way of forgiving. And then when you get to the center, you imagine, or to the end, you can do it either way. But you come to the center, for example, and you imagine a mirror, so you're looking at yourself. And you say, forgive me, I have used your words and actions against myself, and I will no longer, I have used your words most of all to go against myself, and I will no longer use them to hurt myself again. So you use that same forgiveness into a self-forgiveness as you imagine yourself in this mirror. And that represents that the action of your own forgiveness and reclaiming your power, impeccability of your own word and your own intent. So it's intentional rather than automatic, essentially. The bottom line. At that point, rest in the present moment of that forgiveness and go ahead and exit the level. Go ahead.
It sounds to me like that everyone is right for themselves. And if you refuse to let them accept where they are and seeing the world the way they see it, then it takes away our right to see the world like we see it. And so you're right at the point of development that you are in at the moment, and that can change, but not through argumentation. You have to realize it yourself and be open to the possibility that you might be wrong, and that you probably by next year you probably will modify your ironclad position that you're taking now.
Where are you going? Damn, they were right.
A couple of weeks ago, I was walking down the street at King Saber's parking lot, and a guy was driving down the street, hollered out a derogatory name towards me, and there was somebody else in the parking lot, and they said, that wasn't very nice, and I said, well, at least I'm not in the Trump cult.
Mm-hmm.
And this went on.
Mm-hmm. So the next level is moving from identity to preference. The moment we let go of our attachment to identity is the moment we become aware of the separation of our being and what we know. So the separation between just being versus what we think we know. From our beingness, from information or knowledge. Because knowledge is, it's like language. It can just get really messy and miss the point. Like you were saying. So knowledge only exists because we are alive. And our will is the bridge between knowledge and ourselves in the form of choice between yes and no. I mean, it's something that we use it to interact with the dream of the world. So the dream of the earth, it's a necessary confusion that we experience as humans. And the moment you understand that the image of the mask is not you, you regain the awareness of your true self, an individual who is completely free to take any direction in life. When you recognize your truth, that you are a living being regardless of what you know, you are free to let go of the attachment of needing to know who you are. When you recognize your truth, that you are a living being, regardless of what you know, you are free to let go of the attachment of needing to know who you are.
Oh, say that again.
When you recognize your truth, that you are a living being, regardless of what you know. And come on, what you know now, okay, and then an hour later, what do you know now? You're still you. When you recognize your truth, that you are a living being, regardless of what you know, you are free to let go of the attachment of needing to know who you are. Even though that's something that we're going to search for. And not necessarily something that's a waste of time, it's just that you can also let go of that need, that neediness, that somehow that's the thing that'll set you free. You're already free in the being. The hallmarks of this attachment are that you love yourself unconditionally in this present moment. So he's talking about the preference level. That you love yourself unconditionally in this present moment. You play in the dream of the planet, knowing that your yes and no give life to your art. And you understand that truth exists, regardless of whether or not you believe in it. While a belief only exists as long as you believe it. As soon as you choose a new set of thoughts, your beliefs are changing. And you no longer believe what you just believed a moment before you made a conscious choice to think a new set of thoughts. Now, the point is not to get to level one. The point is to be aware of where you are on the spectrum so that you can move freely up and down the levels of attachment. You may feel very attached to certain people and ideas and movements that are important to you at that time. They're not permanent though. I mean, there is a law of impermanence that just, none of us get out of this alive, and we change over time. That's also, I don't know of the law of change, but there is a law. I guess the law of impermanence is that law of change. So moving from preference level 2 to the authentic self, as we let go of preference, we become aware of the truth that the mirror reflects. Moving from preference to the authentic self is simply the act of disengaging from our preferences as this moment passes. We can re-engage and attach or disengage at will. When we choose to live in the moment. So what's the authentic self? What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as William Shakespeare. So what's the authentic self? I don't know. It's not, again, it's as ineffable as God or love. It just is. You only know it when you know it. And then you don't know, and then you might not know it 5 minutes later. So our authentic self is present throughout each and every level. We simply have filters that block or distort our awareness. That occurs from the different attachments that we choose. Whether we choose it consciously or unconsciously, we're choosing attachments frequently. Except for when we let it go. So we can choose to be our authentic self as a being who is completely free of attachment, if that's what we choose to be. This state can be temporarily reached through meditation and other similar practices. He says, I say temporarily because our awareness normally fluctuates throughout our lives as we engage in the dream of the planet and are tempted by the mechanisms of the judge and the victim. Now, that gets into rescue triangle or victim triangle, and people can get caught in a cycle, but that's not necessarily something that everybody has at all times, and that's something that can be transcended. But one of the questions is, who am I? It's one of the most important questions on a spiritual path. And the answer cannot be put into words. Yet I know that I exist. Just as I say I am not my body, I can also say I am not my mind. I am just this living being giving both my body and my mind life. An empty definition whose meaning can only be determined by my yeses and my nos. The 5 levels of attachment aren't rules for achieving the authentic self, simply a framework to become aware of where we are at this moment in relation to various things in life. We can look at any situation to determine what is driving our thoughts and behavior as far as a particular attachment is concerned. So it's simply a framework of tools to let us know, and our emotions are, and we'll get, are a very important self-communicative device that lets us know that attachments are in play. And that positive emotions or negative doesn't make any difference. We're having strong emotions, that means there's attachments in play. And that attachments aren't bad. Okay? We're not judging the attachments. It's simply a framework for awareness so that we have more power of choice. Exercises uncovering the assumptions begin to go ahead and draw a circle and just stop at about 3/4. You see the circle. Okay, you're assuming the completion of the circle, even though you didn't complete. Same thing with if you do two sides of a triangle. You'll be able to see the triangle. Because and that's part of the brain will make the completions, and make an assumption. It's also involved in our vision, where we see a part of something and we will make the completion even if we don't see it.
I am cool to keep this going on, but you do know it's quarter after.
Oh, okay. Real quick, then, thank you. So why did you make the assumption? In almost every case, stories are created based on your attachments. The quest for truth versus being a quest for being right. We do not need to defend our beliefs and opinions. Our only need is self-respect. Emotions create the most authentic anchor we have to ourselves. The whole spectrum of emotions, from fear, love, jealousy, and joy, is very real. But here's the thing. What triggers the emotions may not. So whenever I'm upset, maybe we need to investigate. And those are the skills.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just this. I just need this. All right. Okay. Meditation is tonight at 6 p.m. and is open to everyone. It's a cool experience. Next Sunday, the New Thought and World Religion class, Elby Bailey, will be presenting class at 9:15. If you have been attending for at least 6 months and would like to become a member here at Unity of Springfield, you can pick up an application at the table in the foyer. The new member ceremony will be on April 6th during the service. There is a new member orientation next Sunday right after the service, and lunch will be provided. Our bylaws require new members to attend the orientation. Applications must be turned in to Dee by this Wednesday, March 26th. Planet Unity is our annual Earth Day celebration and our biggest fundraiser. This two-day event is packed full of music, education, food, vendors, and so much more. Please like and follow our Planet Unity Facebook page. Once you're on the page, please like and share all the activities. This is free advertising for us. Planet Unity t-shirts are now on sale. You can go to our website, order, or you can sign up in the foyer, or you can scan a QR code on the flyer in the foyer, and it will take you directly to the order form. Did you bring your yard sale items with you this morning? No worries. You can drop your donations off Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., or bring them with you next Sunday. We'll be having our spring yard cleanup on Saturday, March 29th, beginning at 9 a.m. Please bring your yard tools and gloves. There's a sign-up sheet on the table in the foyer, and all the help is greatly appreciated. I've agreed to be kind of the leadership on that, but a lot of you that are involved, have been involved in that past, know more about it than I do, and we'll get everything spiffed up so it's nice for Planet Unity. And the shelter volunteer appreciation dinner is this Friday, 28th at 6 p.m. And Jen's going to talk about kids activity. That's it.
Well, we'd like to know what LB's talk is going to be about.
LB, are you a continuation of?
It will be a discussion group on what we talked about, integrated life.
Okay. A discussion.